godforsaken reason. But I do remember very well my dad telling me, "Do you know what it's like to never know when you're going to get that last hug from your daughter?"
Yeah.
And it's definitely a rough situation.
Yeah.
And I don't the narcotics, I don't think, and the drug issue in this country, it's like it's not getting any better.
No, it's and with fentanyl in the mix, it becomes even more dangerous.
Hey guys, before this episode starts, I just wanted to say this is Nanea Reeves on our podcast, which is incredible.
It's amazing. Yeah. And it's our first virtual.
Yeah, that too.
So it's pretty cool.
If you don't know anything about her, you should probably Google her. She's got an incredible history, incredible past work experience with major companies in the tech industry.
Definitely look her up.
But yeah, I think most importantly, please
like, subscribe, share, all of that. And really quick, there's some hiccups in the video. There was some lagging, but it's good.
Yeah. It was only like 3 or 4 different times you might see us kind of like while she's talking about something incredibly in depth, we might see a look on our face like we look confused. It's not because we're confused, it's because we couldn't hear her.
Yeah.
Of course, until the sound and audio caught up, which caused me to have to edit a whole bunch extra. But anyway, we appreciate your support. Please, again, subscribing helps more than you know.
Yeah, thanks guys.
Yes, I hope you enjoy. We hope you enjoy. Thank you.
Yeah, anyway, to start over, I'm super excited to do this with you. Thank you so much for asking me.
Yeah,
Yay.
No problem at all.
Yeah.
This will be our 15th episode on the Matt and Monica podcast with Nanea Reeves.
Yep.
And for the record, she's been correcting me for
every time.
Nanea.
About 2 months now. Yeah.
For real.
Yeah. Every time I would say her name wrong. I'll admit it.
That's
and
okay.
she would always correct me.
You're not the only person on the planet, but Nanea, not the way the Hawaiians say it is so beautiful. It's like music to my ears. It's Nanea. And it means peacefulness and serenity in Hawaiian. But Hawaiian words always have different meanings based on the context of how you use them. And they always have a higher meaning. And the higher meaning for Nanea means to be completely and utterly fascinated by an activity that you love to do. And I feel like my life has really turned into that.
Look. Yeah,
absolutely.
Definitely.
And it has definitely been a journey to get here, but it kind of gives me always an anchor to drop back into, am I living up to the mission of my name? So
that's cool.
Yeah.
We've watched a couple episodes. We watched your TED Talk and whatnot, and I kind of wanted to try something a little bit of a different approach because I know the feeling all too well. I'm sure you can relate, feeling like a broken record telling your story, and because I've been doing the same thing for the past year. But I kind of wanted to ask you, like, at what point in your life did you get to the point where you were able to tell your story comfortably and just be so open about what you've been through? Because it is an incredible story.
Thank you.
I'm still trying to get there.
It's definitely been a journey, and I can talk about that. But first, before we dive into me, I have been following your TikTok content, and and I think, part of my story was that I was very, very happily married for 23 years and together with my husband 28 years, and lost him before I started Tripp to cancer. And I know that a lot of families go through that journey, and it's certainly one that I wasn't able to avoid. But it's just really delightful to see the way that you support each other. And it's really reminiscent of the spirit that Vic and I came together with support early in our lives when we were young people starting to build a life for ourselves. And so anyway, I just want to acknowledge you both for what you're putting out in the world.
Thank you.
I really appreciate that. Yeah,
it's awesome.
Yeah, because it's not easy, right? It's not easy in today's world. And, also I recognize, and I don't have a lot of judgment, but on this, what might be right for you when you're in your 20s for a partner may not be the right choice for you when you enter your 40s, etc. And a lot of people have a difficult time navigating that
Oh,
journey. Yeah. Oh, I noticed there was a little bit of a hiccup. So were we okay there? Were you able to hear me?
yeah.
Okay, great.
Yeah, I was
Anyway,
gonna say
so
I
I'll,
got.
I'll tell
Oh,
you part of what made me comfortable talking about my journey was actually, I've been in recovery for a really long time. And I had the very good fortune through a lot of adversity, actually, to have um, uh, the ability to get sober at a young age after struggling very early in my life with addiction. And I believe it was a family disease in our case. I also believe that I was probably self medicating some trauma with the way that I was, trying to take care of myself. I just didn't have all the tools available. And I do believe that a lot of that was foundational for what I've been focusing on later in life, building with Tripp, is how do we help people feel supported through the use of technology, but also to build that muscle to learn how to ask for
Hmm.
support. And it starts
yeah,
with just reaching out for tools that are more positive, more beneficial for your own self care. And when you can do that, even if you don't believe in yourself, just the mere act that you're doing that, I think is a huge door opening. So for me,
yeah.
Absolutely.
yeah, it was just going to AA when I was really young, or into recovery. 12-step recovery was, I think, foundational for me in learning how to articulate how I was feeling. I was not
Hmm.
that communicative as a young person. Definitely talking about my feelings was not something I was very comfortable with. And I feel like 12-step program and also working with mental health professionals gave
Yep.
me the
Hmm.
toolkit of language in a way to say,
Hmm.
how I actually was feeling other than just fine or okay. And really kind of looking how to, I guess, zoom out a little bit and see how I was really talking to myself internally and how maybe that was not really supporting the decisions I was making in my life. And anyway, so that's kind of I think really where it came from, the kernel.
Okay, no, that makes sense.
Yeah.
I was thinking of, kind of just touching upon, how I kind of stumbled upon Trip and
Yeah.
how it's
Hmm.
helped me and helped her. And,
Yeah.
last year was by far the hardest year of my life. And I know you and I share something else. I know we touched upon when we talked briefly, in 2020, I lost my sister to a, opioid
Mm,
battle.
hmm.
She was, actually, I believe my sister saved me because when I was 14, I remember going to pick her up from college. She's 6 years older than I am. She's 20 years old. And I remember I saw what crack cocaine did to my sister at
Mm,
a young age. And she was she wasn't into anything like that. She was going to college to be a nurse. And next thing you know, she has nothing. And it scared me. It shocked me
yeah.
to the point I've been scared of ever touching anything. And I know that in this past year, going through a different type of adversity, but it's still things out of my control. For a very long time, I was dwelling on all this stuff. I was really letting it crumble my mind.
Mm,
And I know I posted a video in September, I believe. It was the first time I've ever posted a video, and I talked about checking myself into the VA for a mental health evaluation just because I was concerned and she was concerned about me.
Yeah.
And I wasn't a threat to myself or others, but I was going through so much.
mm,
And but I was so scared they're gonna try to throw prescriptions at me. And not that I'm, teach their own. I've always been kind of against the idea of just you got to take a pill to be happy.
mhm.
And luckily, the psychiatrist that I talked to, he said to me, he's like, listen, he's like, it sounds like you have a very good grasp on what you're going through. You're just going through a lot,
Mm.
and it's very understandable. And hearing that from a professional was very helpful to me.
Mm.
And I ended up going home that day, and I never got any antidepressants or anything like that because he believed I didn't need them. Although he said if I felt as if I needed them, he would have prescribed them to me. Just want to make sure. Okay, I know it's a little fuzzy. Luckily, we're doing the different angles so we can crop that in if it ever does drop out. But so September of last year, I hit that point where I was at one of my many rock bottoms, and then after going to the VA and hearing that positive reinforcement that I'm kind of all right, I decided to really start putting effort into looking out for myself and my own mental well being. And I was very obsessed with AI. I've always wished I could work in the
Yeah.
AI field in some
Oh,
way, shape, or form.
cool.
But I decided to use AI to try to use analytics and statistics to try to figure out different things that I could use to improve my life because there's things out of my control that I'm not going to be able to control.
Mm.
And one of the things was, I found this guy's podcast called Your World Within, and he talked about guided meditation.
Mm.
So here I am listening to motivational speakers on the radio, and I thought it was kind of corny, but I was okay with it because I know, it's input. When you're taking positive input on a regular basis, I believe it does improve you. I
Mhm.
noticed I felt like I was more articulate. I felt like
Mhm.
I feel
I
like a lot of what you were listening to, you related to so much with what they were
yes,
saying. And you're
yes,
like, oh, someone else can feel like
Well,
that.
there's
Like, I
yeah,
feel like I,
language, right? And we don't learn it when we're learning how to navigate life. And it's really important to develop that emotional language and also the reflection that's needed to check in with ourselves to go, how am I feeling? And
hmm
and if I react the way I want to right now, that might have a very negative impact on this relationship with this person I really care about, this job that I really love. Is there
Mhm.
a way that I can, in this moment, pause, take a
yeah,
breath, and reframe how I'm feeling? Or at least figure out how to get through the moment so I don't do something self destructive.
yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. And
absolutely.
that is a muscle I feel that is really necessary for us all to develop for being successful in life. But I have so many questions to ask you about, losing a sibling. And, when I saw your video on TikTok, because sometimes I just search on different platforms and see how people are talking about Tripp. We started the company in 2017. We went live with the product
There's a
that we
little
built in
hiccup. I
2019.
don't think it's my Wi-Fi connection, but I doubt it would be yours.
Oh, is there a
Oh, there you
delay?
are. There was.
It like paused for a minute.
I just upgraded to a 1 gig connection, so I don't think it's me. I
I have
swear.
1 gig as well, so let me make sure I'm on the good one. Hold on. Yeah, I'm afraid it'll do a hiccup. It might be this platform too, the Riverside thing.
um, but yeah, it's funny. Actually, I want to throw in there. I think you comment on one of my TikTok videos in like December. I didn't have any idea who you were, and then when I posted something on LinkedIn, when you saw it and you shared it, I'm like, oh, and I realized who you were and that
Mhm.
you were the CEO of Tripp, and
Right.
I'm
We're
like,
like,
wow,
wait, what?
yeah. Then
Yeah.
then I realized that you were on TikTok as well,
Hmm.
and I'm like, oh, she
Yeah.
commented on something like over a month ago. So
Hmm.
you never know who's watching.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I love to connect and engage with people using our app because hearing the feedback, it really does help us be better. And I'm inspired by some of the entrepreneurs I really admire who have built really successful companies, have done that throughout the life cycle of the company. And
Yeah,
y- I understand that what we're doing may not work for everyone. And by work, I mean it may not connect with them in the ways that it does with others. And we also want to understand, how we can be better. And the best way for me to do that is to see what people are saying about our app and even reach out to them and respond. But more importantly, to acknowledge and thank them, to thank you for using our application because it really does help us not only build a better product, but it supports us. Like your contribution to our service by just using it helps us be, you know, building something that we're really proud of,
Yeah.
and will continue to evolve. That's what's really exciting about
Oh yeah.
being a software developer, is that you can continue to evolve it. And sometimes I just have to take a deep breath and just be, you know, plug into that gratitude that how did my life turn out that I could sit here and talk to Matt and Monica, who are users of a
I
product
mean,
that I was part
that's how
of
we feel with
bringing
you.
Yeah.
bringing to the world. And like, how did my life get like this? Because I was supposed to end up like my sister, you know, dead from a drug overdose. And um, uh, I think my sister Vicky died in 2012 on December 7th, and
Yeah.
I really consider that to be the saddest day in my life. And I was thinking about that. I don't know, maybe you had this experience, Matt. Like you're always fearing that day that you know is inevitable, where you're going to get that phone call when you
You
Yeah.
know,
have someone in your life who is just, you know, in the throes of addiction, and they cannot get, you know, see their way out of it. And the acknowledgement too that I had to really understand is twofold. One, that even though I knew I would get that call one day, when I did get that call on December 7th, I it was so devastating. Even with the understanding that it was likely, the finality of losing someone in such a tragic way was really
mhm.
like so heartbreaking. And then the truth is, like, my heart is still broken, and it's been 12 years, you know,
Yeah.
since that phone call. And it doesn't lessen. And I have to look at ways where I can reframe it and think that my efforts that I'm doing today somehow honors her spirit, you know, so that her death isn't
Hmm.
in vain. But also, you know, I
Yeah,
can
for
look
sure.
at the gift of it telling me that, you know, my choice to make a right turn into sobriety at such a crucial point
Mm-hmm.
was a fork in the road of my own destiny. That she she in a weird way lived out the life that I could have had
Oh
I
yeah,
not made
absolutely.
certain choices. And foundational to that decision to get sober was a therapist teaching me how to meditate. And so when I thought about later in life, what was my idea I wanted to bring forth, it was like, how do I help people navigate these really big life challenges? And losing a sibling is a very specific type of loss, because it's that person
Hmm.
who has witnessed your journey from the very same vantage point, you know? And there isn't anyone else like that in the world, you know, who has seen your journey from the, you know, understands you as a child and went through the same experiences. And um yeah, it's a very specific type of loss, and I miss her every all day long. You know. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's one of those things where, with my sister, we, it was a 5-year battle. I used to work in law enforcement, so I
Mm,
know a lot of law enforcement in the area and stuff. And I tried to get her help. I was always that one. I was always very close to my sister, to the extent I would speak my mind. I
right.
would speak my mind. One of the last things I told my sister is, like, I'm like, listen, I'm like, you're a great person. I love you to death, but you are a shitty daughter to our father and our mother and father.
Mm-hmm.
And she always respected my honesty. She never ever acted like she took offense. She agreed with me, in
Mm-hmm.
fact. But you talk about that you're going to get that phone call. And I remember my father like it was yesterday. And I have one of those weird memories where
Mm-hmm.
I don't remember a lot of things from my past for some
Yeah.
godforsaken reason, but I do remember very well my dad telling me, "Do you know what it's like to never know when you're going to get that last hug from your daughter?"
Yeah.
And Yeah, it's definitely a rough situation,
Yeah.
and I don't the narcotics, I don't think, and the drug issue in this country, it's like it's not getting any better.
No, it's and with fentanyl in the mix, it becomes even more dangerous. I had a very close friend of mine who was a former boss of mine lose his son, 18-year-old son, in the pandemic to a fentanyl overdose, and it was so tragic to see the family go through that. So I think it's even more important that we share our stories so that somebody who
Mm-hmm.
might be going through um, the beginning stages of addiction understand that it's even more dangerous now, and that my sister used to always say she's only hurting herself, and I shouldn't worry about
Oh,
it, and that's not true.
yeah.
Everyone was brokenhearted by, even before she died, how she was living her life, and she was such a bright, funny, awesome person on so many levels, but that is the power of not being able to learn how to ask for help, learn how to understand who you truly are, as a
Hmm.
person, and how precious the gift of life is, and how ephemeral it is too, like how short, we don't know how long we have with each other. And that was something I really learned with my husband. We thought we would have another 20, 30 years together at least, and that was cut short. But you have to really be present for each other, and I think that grief is it's a byproduct of great love. It's the other side of tremendous love. And when you
Yeah,
understand that, it really helps you navigate the loss, because you
yep,
understand that
Mm-hmm.
um, there was great love powering the grief that I'm feeling. Now that the person's presence is not in my life, but it doesn't mean that the love is no longer in my heart. It always.
yeah,
Yeah.
Mhm. Yeah.
I think we try very hard to show each other how much we love each other and appreciate each other, and
makes
just soak our lives in every day. And we're human, so we take
Yeah.
things for granted, like being here together,
yeah,
but we try to soak it in.
Yeah.
And like every day, he's always like, he shows me how much he loves me, and that's insane to me.
Yeah.
It's like it's
yeah.
special.
It just stinks because I remember when we first started dating. We've been together 8 years now, and she was, because she had a past,
A rough past. Yeah.
and she
Mhm.
was very proud of overcoming her rough past. And we haven't talked
Yeah.
about it publicly. We've been deciding on the right time,
When?
but
Yeah.
Mm.
in the fact that she's able to turn her life around. And I actually was the one, because she worked for a large university for a while, and I said to her, I'm like, maybe you shouldn't be so open about it, because I feel like it could have shunned her career development
Yeah.
where
Yeah.
she was trying to go full
And
time. And
that's appropriate too, I think.
Yes.
yeah,
Yeah. There's
yeah,
a time and a place for all of that.
yeah,
So I think we're just hoping right now with what's going on, eventually I can share my story, because I really feel like I need to help people know that there's hope. And if I can
yeah,
do it, you can do it type of thing.
Yeah.
Um, it's the story that I have is like insane. To me, it's
yeah.
insane. And I went through it,
This,
so I feel like if other people heard it, they'd be like, wait, what? Like you went through that, and like, look where you are now.
Yeah.
And I met a great human being that loves me for me. And if I can get through all of that, you definitely can too. And I think
Yeah.
people need hope that there's help out there, because there's help for everything. It's just they need to get it.
Yeah. And that was
yeah,
something that I understood, that my husband really could see who I was.
Yes.
And my
Mm-hmm.
meditation practice helped me find who I really was. And I was very much, as a young person, identifying with the damage and with the shame of the life was living, and the self destructive behaviors that I exhibited as a young teenager, which really I was just struggling with, not having the right tools, not having real support in my life. And, I think the first step was me being able to just ask for help when I ended up in a hospital at age 15, and then to um, start to make better decisions in my life. And one of them was getting sober and uh, making that life choice, and then falling in love with somebody who just saw me in a way that I never saw myself. And it was through that continued love that I feel my life really healed. That I could tell that he
Hmm.
was
Mm-hmm.
there for me no matter what. And I feel that way with my
Yeah.
boyfriend too. We've been together 5.5 years
Aw.
now. And I
Awesome.
Mm-hmm.
didn't, after Vic died, I did not think I would ever fall in love again. And I
Yeah.
Hmm.
didn't think
Yeah.
I needed to either. I was pretty happy, with the thought that I could live my life alone going forward, and that I knew love. I was grateful that I knew real love. The fact that I was able to find it again in a completely
That's
different
special.
form,
Yeah.
it also
Yeah.
let
Yeah.
me know that there was something in me that was healed, that I could attract people who knew how to care for me and cherish me and honor who I was, and that I could show up. I knew that I could show up for someone in that way.
Hmm.
That I understand that
Hmm.
because when I left my situation, I felt like that was it. Like who would love me?
Right.
Like I'm so broken and torn
Yep.
apart and like worthless, whatever. And then,
Hmm.
you meet people and then you meet your person and you're like, they love you for who you are,
Yeah.
with the good and the bad. And that's a feeling that I wish everyone could feel.
Yeah,
Yeah.
there's
People
something
said it.
about learning how to be a partner, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I think, like, I saw me and my boyfriend really come together during the pandemic. We have, this sweet little dog, and we were like, we're all in it together. We're, and I saw a lot of my friends who were like, oh my God, I can't believe you're my person. Like, we need to break up
Yeah.
right away.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
that also shows the benefit of really not letting the routine of our lives distract us from really going, what's important,
Mm-hmm.
to me right now in this moment, because I may not have tomorrow. I
Yeah.
may
Yeah.
not have next year. So
Yeah.
I have been ruthlessly focused on making sure that my days are well designed, that I'm doing work that's challenging and fulfilling to me, that I spend time with people who care about me and are kind and considerate towards me. And those who aren't, I'm learning how to release them with love, as it were,
Yes.
Yeah.
to really
Yeah.
just
I
say,
like that.
you may not, I don't need to hate you, but your energy is just not what I need right now to help me do my life. And that can be hard, because I think, especially as women, and you might understand this, Monica, is that we have to kind of sometimes stop and ask ourselves, what do I want? We're always asking people, what do you want? How
Yeah.
can I help you? How can I be of service to you and
Yeah.
support
Hmm.
you?
That's not normal when I think you think about things that you feel like that you need or
Right.
things that you want or deserve.
Yeah.
It's always about the other
Yeah.
Yeah.
people because you're a nurturer and you want to take care of them. And
Yeah.
it's hard to set aside your own anything, really.
Yeah. And maybe there are some of your audience going through the process of caring for somebody who is dealing with an illness. When I was going through that with my husband, with his cancer treatment, and my mother afterwards as well, also with cancer, it's very draining. And I did not take care of myself physically and emotionally as well as I probably needed to. And I had to spend a lot of time kind of refilling the well.
Yeah.
and reversing some of the damage. So I always try to encourage people who might be dealing with elderly parents or, spouses that are going through some challenging health concerns to make sure that we just check in with ourselves periodically and go, do I
Yeah.
need support here? Am
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
am I getting enough rest? Am I taking time to go do some social things and not feel guilty about it, but know that
Yeah.
it
Yeah.
allows me to show up better too.
Yep.
Yes, you have to take care of yourself
Yeah.
Yeah.
physically and mentally to be able to do anything for anyone else. And I
And other
really
people.
strongly believe that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think being there for other people,
Yeah.
I found so much power in just,
Mhm.
because I've always been an open book. And,
Mhm.
speaking of cancer, one of my good friends, I called him the middle of the summer of last year, and I was at another rock bottom point, going through hell.
Hmm.
And I went to call him to talk about what I got going on. And he just got out of the hospital, and he just found out that he was diagnosed with not prostate cancer, colon cancer.
Oh, wow.
And it was not good. And him and
Yeah.
I, granted, my adversity that I've been going through is very different from his. I'm fortunate enough,
Yeah.
knock on wood, to have my health.
Mhm.
But both of our issues are very real.
Right.
And in talking to other people that are going through, difficult times, it's really helped me. It put things in perspective, and it's taught me, like, it's almost empowered me, making me realize, like, all right, what I'm going through is hard. What we're going through, I should say. It's
Yeah.
just very different from,
You just can't compare your
yeah,
life with other people's lives
yeah.
cuz
And if they can do it, it just, and the cool thing about adversity, as much as I don't want to,
yeah.
it really changes you. And, we appreciate every day that we wake up, and we appreciate every second we can spend
We
together. And,
definitely
Yeah.
put
And
effort
like,
into that.
that's something, we tried to embody in the way that we design Trip is to give people the container in very short experiences to just drop into that
Yeah.
yes,
heart space, no matter what you're going through, to first like just go, oh wow, right?
yeah,
That
Mhm.
in that oh wow is so much
Yep.
letting go. And then
yes,
to be able to just start to breathe and breathe more deeply, than we do. We tend to breathe very shallowly, even just, especially when we're under stress, our breath,
hmm,
Yeah.
quickens, and that can create long-term issues as well. But just to
yeah,
learn how to just breathe, and everything about just being present in the moment in
Yep.
life is breath. There's nothing more important than just stopping and noticing, that inhale.
yeah,
If I can feel grateful even in the darkest times that I have the gift of life and I have the opportunity to at least make the best of this moment. Usually, if I can figure out ways to be of service, I feel better about what's happening in my life. And so that really was the foundation for starting this company, was coming out of a lot of
we just,
grief and thinking about, um, what do I want to build? What is my idea I want to bring forth into the world as I rebuild my life alone? And that's how we ended up here. So,
oh man,
Yep.
it's glitched out a little bit for a couple
Yeah.
seconds.
that's
Sorry.
okay. I have a
Um,
local recording here on my phone, so we'll be
Yeah,
okay.
exactly.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, I kind of wanted to take off from, like, September, when I decided to start investing into my, my own well-being.
Mhm.
Trip was one of the things, because I had a VR and I saw it on there for a while. And I remember I tried, like, a demo before you purchased it.
Hmm.
Then I'm like, after I heard talked about in the podcast I was listening to, I decided to really, I'm like, I'm going to give it a shot. And then I just tried a breathing exercise. I'm like, wow, this really seemed to help me. And it's gotten to the extent, I tried to do it for the 3 times a week for the reward. And then
Oh, the rewards are going to get much better, by the way. So,
good.
yeah.
Yay. Like I
I'm
feel
not
like
complaining.
our room was like full. I'm like, where
Yeah,
am I gonna
yeah.
put that?
Yeah.
There's gonna be we're gonna start giving points soon, and then you'll be able to spend them on some premium stuff too on the
Oh, it's
points.
so
Yeah.
cool.
Listen, we've been talking, and we wanted
Yeah.
to ask you to, like, and this is, you might already be implementing this. So, like, and it's not like, don't want any credit for it. I just hope you implement it. The only thing we dislike is the fact that we can't use it together. And when we are using it, it's like, I don't know, 'cause I work a lot, and we really value the time we have together.
Yeah,
If we could do a trip where she's able to wear it, and I'm able, even if I'm able to see, like, look over and see her or something like that, I'm like, that would be so incredibly
right.
cool.
Because he says often when he's like using it, and say he's like really stressed and he's like, I want to use it, but I feel disconnected from you when we're just sitting there next to each other.
Yeah.
He wants to feel more connected so we could do it together.
I love that. Maybe what we'll do is create some kind of shared sanctum
That'd be
space
awesome.
where you'll see
Yeah.
Sanctum's going to evolve more as a new version of Composer, where you can just bring in elements exactly the way
Yep,
you
that's my
want it,
favorite thing.
environments and
Mm-hmm.
breathing exercise, no breathing exercise. It's going to take us a while to build that out, but we'll get
Yeah.
there. And I think the team definitely has a goal of having the ability to invite your friends to come share the space with you. And so stay tuned. Yeah, that's a good feature. I I like that. We do have live group communities as well that we do
I've yet
in
to
Mm-hmm.
try that.
some of the other groups. If you go to trip.com and click on the
Yep.
community tab, there's
Yeah.
schedules on there. And oddly enough, our death Q&A, our grief groups that we hold on the Engage platform, and you don't even need a headset to participate in them. They're very popular because
Hmm.
I think people, so many people will go through loss. It's just part of life.
Everybody, yeah.
And to be able to have a little bit of a veil that having an avatar and being in a virtual environment gives you a little bit
Yeah.
sense of safety to be able to express some really big emotions. And
Yeah.
it's led by a wonderful man named Tom Nickel, who is also he works in hospice, supporting people and their families. And I think that it's really a unique experience, a use case for uh, using these metaverse worlds, these virtual worlds to bring people together. I didn't think it would be that compelling to meditate with other people live as
Yeah.
avatars and stuff, but it actually is really cool. And so
It is
I
cool.
try to mix up my VR time with doing some of those live sessions, and we have
Yeah.
30 a week. Yeah, combined with
Wow.
also, I really like the focus trips because I like to see the images of who shows up at the end in my trip.
Hmm.
Yeah.
I have a lot of my, uh, yeah, it works better when you have a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's really funny too, and I wanted to tell you, I do a lot of the sleep one,
Oh, yeah.
and I tell him all the time, it's like I almost am like I'm falling asleep like while it's on my head.
Oh,
Like
yeah.
I'm just like it's crazy.
So
I'm
in
like
our
trying
mobile
to
app, we just launched some really cool audio to support sleep sound frequencies. So you can take the headset off and then just kind of drift. And we launched a
yeah.
few sleep stories too that are really cool. So, and they
Cool.
were written using our mood data, but also AI. So it's been
Mhm.
interesting to experiment with AI and
Yeah.
combine it
Oh, I
with
bet.
That's
some
so
of
cool.
our mood data, the feelings that people have shared with us before and after the sessions. We use that as training data for our AI.
Yeah, I've been using Calm more than anything else. I've tried using Focus a handful of times, a decent amount of times actually, when I can, if I can spare the extra 10-15 minutes in the mornings. I really
Mhm.
like to wait
Yeah,
till the last
Exactly.
second to get
yeah.
up, but
Yeah.
I do use it, and
Yeah.
it's benefited me.
And
But
the
the Calm
you mean the
benefits me.
calm experiences in Trip? Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
yeah, it's incredibly beneficial. I mean, it's to the extent now, like, I try to work out. I don't work out enough, but I try to, 3 times a week,
yeah.
give
Hmm.
or take. And
Yeah.
I put this on the same level as,
The
working out,
importance of
or
working
yeah.
out or eating healthy.
And when I
It's like,
don't,
yeah,
it's like
you
it's
feel like you need to.
yes.
Yeah.
Well, like, there's been days I've had, I'm stressed, and I'll explain to you when I stop recording, kind of what we're going through, because it's even more relatable to your upbringing, I think.
Mm.
But I've had days where I'm broken, and like I
Mm-hmm.
will, I'll be like, man, maybe I should just try to meditate, as much as I don't feel like doing anything but going to sleep or whatever. And
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
I will meditate. I'll generally try to do the 25-minute one, and
Oh
when I
wow.
do, it's like a complete reset.
Oh,
Yeah.
I
I
mean,
love
it's not
hearing
even
that.
like,
Yeah.
I'm not exaggerating.
It
Like there's been
changes his
times
mood so quickly, like
like
night and day.
there's
Really.
yeah like and I tell people, I'm like, listen, like I told some of my friends, I'm like, listen, like, there's so many people that are going through hard
Mm-hmm.
times. Like everybody I
Mm-hmm.
know, everyone that I've talked to in the past year that's going through stuff is going through something,
Mm-hmm.
some worse than other. But
Yeah.
Yeah.
like I truly believe, and I mean it, like if everybody were to do this 3 times a week, or anybody that used it, I should say, it's
Yeah.
gonna benefit you.
Yeah.
It's there's no way it couldn't.
Yep.
Well,
um
I have we don't make any we don't make any therapeutic claims or anything, but I do believe just the act of taking time to connect to yourself
yes.
and
Yeah.
to be in a
Mm-hmm.
space where you're not looking at your social media feeds, not dealing
Yeah.
with work, not even dealing with the pressures of home life, to just really say, I'm going to do this for the next 20 minutes and get some positive reinforcement on a topic that I might find helpful, and just breathe. I think
Hmm.
even that in and of itself is something that people really struggle with making the time for, but you're right, it's just as important as to take care of our emotional well-being and our inner health in the way
Yep.
that we do our physical health and bodies.
Yeah.
It is 100%, I
Yeah.
think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so you had some questions about me, my journey. I'm happy to talk about to some extent. I do feel, I understand the concerns, Monica, too, that you were expressing for a long time. I did not talk about my early life because I just felt like it could be used against me, especially when I was working in the video game
Exactly.
industry. I had enough
Yes.
success at a certain point where I realized it didn't really matter. But I was
Yes.
very comfortable in 12 step talking about my experience because it was that same thing that you said, that if I can have the life that I have today, so can someone else who feels broken
Yeah,
spirited,
absolutely.
um, uh, a failure
Just
in
hang up again.
life, wounded from life experiences, that they can give themselves a life. I knew that what my journey um, was an example of how that's possible. And it has given me a sense of purpose. And it also gave me confidence, that,
Yeah.
Hmm.
yeah, but we do have to be careful too, because not everybody's nice, right?
Right.
Yeah.
Unfortunately,
Yeah.
people, yeah, I wouldn't want anything that I would say to hurt anyone or to ruin anything, for myself or our family or anything like that,
Yeah.
which is unfortunate because we all go through things, like different things. And I wish I could just say stuff, but I can't yet,
Yeah, I
so
hear
the,
you. And
yeah.
people sometimes, they can't help themselves. They might get jealous or resentful because you're happy or you're doing, you know, maybe better than they might be doing. And it's kind of a
Yeah.
reminder to them of that. And, I hope that we can turn around and help those people, do you know?
I was just gonna say, like,
Yeah.
people that might feel like that shouldn't look at it like that. They should be like, well, maybe they would. I would want to give inspiration to those people,
Yeah,
because I'm not
I
better or
hear
worse
you.
than
I
anybody
know I
else.
have felt that time. I have felt that way at times in my life when I was younger. And yeah, it's a very negative headspace to be in. And I found that when I could start to really celebrate other people's success, whether they got a year of sobriety after struggling,
Yeah.
or they got promoted at a job that, believed in them more than they believed in themselves, that's when doors started opening for me. you know?
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
You just touched on something I really wanted to. How much time do you have, by the way? We're at
Yeah,
43 minutes.
I'm
I know
good.
we're
I have
okay.
another 15 minutes if that works
Okay.
good. Yeah.
Um, so I never went to college. I got my GED actually. A lot of people don't know that.
Mm.
But I got into IT, in like 2016 or so. Then I got promoted to networking. Then I got promoted to surveillance specialist. Then I got promoted to another job as a system engineer, then a senior system engineer. And then I just recently went back to my original employer as a security engineer with very little security experience. And I suffer. I realized this year I've never heard of the term imposter syndrome. I
Mm-hmm.
suffer
Mm-hmm.
so horribly bad from it. And I've
Yeah.
gotten better about it, but
It's still really there though.
it's, because
And
I heard you touch upon this, I think in one of your talks about, I've always thought I've lucked out my entire life. In
Yep.
fact, I mean, as far as I'm concerned, like with her, I have,
yeah.
but, and I have been very fortunate. But
But it's not just your luck or fortunate. Like you are, like you work towards what you want. You
well,
don't just give up. So you're a
yeah,
very hard worker for what your goal is.
yes. And I think being mindful and actually being like, I'm a lot more confident than I've ever been. And I realize like being a decent person to other people, just being nice,
Mm-hmm.
being friendly, and just loving other people is so damn powerful.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
I honestly think it's the only reason why I've ever, and not that I'm not selling myself short. I'm not dumb. I just learn very differently than other people. I'm not one that could, take an exam after, not studying or anything like that. But
You have like that different side of your kindness and everything with people, with life, and
yeah,
people like soak that in.
yeah,
And you're like a magnet to everything, kind of, I
Mhm.
guess, you know?
Yeah.
So going to the imposter syndrome thing, I definitely felt that a long time um, during my career. But I started to change the internal dialogue of how I spoke to myself instead of, oh, I'm not qualified to do this.
No.
If I just flip that into, if someone else can do this, so can I. Look at where I've come from, right?
Yeah.
And let me just figure out what I need to do to learn how to do this, right? Whether it's
Mhm.
asking someone to show me how and not being ashamed of that, because some people love to be mentors in that,
Mhm.
it honors their experience. Maybe it's not a direct manager or worker within the workplace I'm in, but it's external, so I don't feel too exposed, where I'm at. But I have found that people are always comfortable with offering support and help. And I even reached out to one person at some point when I became really responsible for a big budget and I didn't know a lot about finance. And I called up an old boss of mine who was always like one of those people who saw a lot in me before I could see it in myself. And I said, could I ask you dumb questions? Would you be available for some dumb questions? And he goes, of course, I'll be your dumb question buddy. And I went, okay,
Yeah.
what does this mean? And how do I respond to it? And it really, like,
Mm-hmm.
within a 6-month time period, I kind of learned everything I needed to know to run that part of the business in a way,
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
right? And also, I realized that as I became more and more responsible for more people, let me hire smart people
Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
who can advise me to hire smart people who can advise me in those functions that I might not be as knowledgeable about. So being a good manager
Yeah.
has a lot of that as well. One thing I do know is I had to also learn what I definitely should be confident in, which is ever since I was a little girl. Sorry for the ever since I was.
It's okay.
You're fine.
Let me start over. Ever since I was a little girl. It's all the notifications, like 8 calendars. Ever since I was a little girl, I had a lot of responsibility shoved on me because my mother was a drug addict. I had two younger sisters, but I was also fierce and I was curious, and I figured out how to do some really hard things that a lot of, people don't ever even learn in their lives. And to know that that person is in me and is part of who I am.
Mm-hmm.
And also to acknowledge that, at my core, I'm Hawaiian, I'm a warrior, do you know? I have that in my blood. And, I will fight through difficulties and I will figure things out. And so, really, to stand in confidence on the things that I know to be true about myself. Maybe we have to do some writing and some inventory work to find those nuggets that we can
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
call. And some of the content in Trip, we try to focus on helping people get to those states of mind, because there's so much that can be achieved once you learn how to speak to yourself in the correct way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
You learn so much about yourself.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
also sometimes we might need to get professional support to help us with the rumination
Yeah.
and the
Yeah.
thoughts that are really being produced from our damage and the trauma we've gone through. For me, it was really important, though, I was now to realize I was now at a point where I could see those battle scars as strength, that they built a
Mm-hmm.
lot of strength and
Oh
courage
yeah.
in me. And that was a healthier way for me to reframe it. Because for
Hmm.
many years, I really made a lot of choices based on, feeling like I was a damaged person entering the room, and that's not always the healthiest mindset to navigate life with.
Yeah.
Yeah. If you can look at adversity as happening for you, not to you, I mean, I think that's a lot.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
Very
knowing you have purpose,
Yeah. Yeah.
that's huge.
Hmm. Yeah. Especially, yeah.
Yeah.
Especially lately. Oh man.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
you have been a police officer. I come from a family of police officers in Hawaii. My grandfather was a police officer before Hawaii was a state. And he actually got fired because he could never give anyone a ticket because they were all his friends and cousins. And
Yeah.
Aw.
Yeah.
and then also come from a family in Hawaii that's very active in the military, as well as
Yeah.
on my mother's side of the family, several uncles and cousins who have been of service. And um, there's something about, I think, learning how to honor our warriors as well, and to take care of them. This is something I'm really proud of, the fact that Tripp has a lot of veterans who use our application. It
Yeah.
was something during the beginning of the pandemic, after we launched on the Oculus Quest, the very first one. We received a letter from a veteran who had been using our application with his friends who were, also comrades. And they uh the email they sent me, I burst into tears when I read it, because we were so new as a company. And I remember sending it to my cousin, who's an investor in our company, and just saying, look, look what's happening here. Like, this is
Yeah.
That's
incredible.
crazy.
And this
Yeah.
is something worth fighting for,
Yeah.
that we need to help people with these tools. And specifically, the fact that we're 57% male audience, that young men, seem to
Mm-hmm.
be really connecting to our application, I think is
Mm.
very, very unique, and it's something
Yeah.
we're very proud of. And I love that young people are thinking about their mental health and well-being in ways, that maybe people in my generation and above should have paid more attention to. We might be in a
Yeah.
Yeah.
better situation as a world.
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely.
And
That's really cool.
you were talking and it got me thinking also about the whole video game aspect of Tripp. Because I really feel like a lot of, like, I almost feel like in between when you're doing the trips, like you almost have that level up feeling.
Yeah.
When
We're
you're
going to
going to the
build some
next,
more
Yeah.
leveling. Yeah. We're going to build
That's,
Cool.
real
yeah.
leveling into it. And, I love working in the video game industry. That's where I really found my love for building software. And I love video games. I have found them to be very helpful to me at times in my life. And also, they taught me a lot, like playing SimCity. I feel like I learned a lot of project management skills and just
Yeah.
even pattern recognition,
Yeah.
understanding how to strategize and uh, win through failing over and over again,
Yeah.
trying things
I'm
out.
a
I
big
mean,
Dark Souls person. It's
oh
very
yeah,
similar.
right.
So
So
that's
yeah, I love the BioShock series, and I heard they were going to do another one,
That's
a
oh,
live
okay.
really
action TV show. I heard,
interesting. Yeah.
yeah,
Oh, they're doing a live action
yeah,
show.
that's what I
Oh, that's
heard.
cool.
Oh,
That'll be awesome.
I
But
like that universe.
anyway, it's yeah, it I I felt that there was a way to take the positive aspects of playing video games and combining them with mindfulness techniques. I mean, that really was the inspiration for Tripp. And also, could you, in early VR use cases, it was so easy to produce fear. They were
Hmm.
very horror based or designed to scare you. And if I kept thinking, if you could scare someone that easily, what else could you make them feel? That was really
Yeah.
Yeah.
kind of the
No,
the
absolutely.
question. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
That's
having
a
the ability to build software, there's some wonderful things about it, and it's going to get easier and easier for people to build apps now with AI. It's going to be
Oh yeah.
very
yeah.
interesting 5 years ahead of us, not only as a company but also as a community, and how people can bring their own ideas forth. Look, you're using technology right now to share and express your ideas about things, your life experiences, your journey together and independent of each other. And who would have thought that was even a possibility when the first
Yeah.
Nokia flip phones showed up on the
With the
Yeah.
antenna. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. This
That's
is
crazy.
this is only the beginning. Like we just
Yeah.
Yeah, we're
dabbled in
just
the
starting.
AI
It's
era.
definitely just the beginning.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
Yeah. And you've had to learn how to code to build apps in the current environment and in the past, but pretty soon you just need to be able to express an idea.
well,
And
I
yeah.
expressed the idea to her about something in relation to one of your posts. I don't know where I found you posted
Hmm.
something the next day. I read it and I'm like, what are the odds? Because I said to her, I'm like, theoretically, if you were to take a large data set of text messages and or videos or our
Oh,
podcast, you could essentially, maybe not completely, replicate everything she could potentially say,
or
Mhm.
or at
think.
least something close to it. And
Yeah.
then
Right.
I saw something that you posted about, and I think you kind of worked on
Yeah,
something
we
like that.
built that in our mobile app. It's called Kokua. And
Yeah.
Hmm.
Kokua is the Hawaiian word for support. It's a very
Yep.
spiritual kind of support where you just give for the sake of giving and you benefit from that giving.
Yep.
And of course, the recipients of your giving also benefit. So it's a very reciprocity kind of approach to
Yeah.
support. And um, it was trained off of all the mood data that we have, and we've seen our users use it outside of headset. It's only been live since the beginning of February, so it's almost 60 days, less than 60 days. And we've learned so much with it. Pretty soon you'll see a version of it come into VR that
I was
will
gonna ask that.
Yeah.
continue to evolve and be really cool. It'd be a new way to that our app starts. Instead of throwing you into our menu, you'll have this light come up
Cool.
and ask you how you're feeling, and it'll generate
Yeah.
something personalized for you just to get you right into it. And then, of course, you can go into calm or do some of the other
Yep.
things.
I
And we
love
have a
that.
lot of new stuff that we're adding to it. But that's the beginning of what we're calling hyper personalized wellness experiences. And, starting with the audio first, and it was trained off my voice, and all of our meditation content and filtered and influenced by the mood data that our users have shared with us. So it's very interesting. I'd love to get your feedback. You guys interact with it and let me know how it
Yeah.
works for you.
Absolutely.
I've had one friend, she's been using it every day for 28 days, and she goes, it told me something about it was so off topic, and then other times it's really good. I said, well, that's the beauty of AI, is that it learns. The
Yeah.
more people use it, it gets better. I used GPT-2 when I first got access to it, and this was a few years ago, to see if we could use it to create meditation content for Tripp, and it
Yep.
output nonsense. But
Yeah.
now you look at GPT-4, and we're using it to author a lot of our content. We've
Oh yeah, I
trained
figured
a
I saw that.
special version of
Yeah.
it on our we've trained a special version of it on our mood data, but it's really amazing how it's evolved because so many people have interacted with it. So the way I look at Kokua is that it has been co-created by uh, our team in combination with our users contributing to it.
Yeah.
So we
Yeah.
built
I
it
love
for
that.
them
Yeah.
too,
I,
and
I
we're all
actually I
building
used
it
it.
together.
I
Yeah.
used it
That's so
today, and it
cool. I
asked me
love that
how I
so
was
much.
feeling. I'm like, well, I'm about to be on a podcast with you. And because what if people don't know that are watching this,
Hmm.
one of the options in Trip is it's Nanea's voice,
Hmm.
and so it's just, it's a
Yeah, I
little.
remember the first time like we connected that because like we used Trip for a while, and then we were watching videos of you, and we look at each other and we're like, that's her voice on
Yeah.
there.
It's so weird because I didn't want to make that choice was not based on ego and having my
No, no,
voice
it
be,
works.
but
Yeah,
it was because I was free and present. I could jump in and record at any time. And um, we had originally early on hired actors to do the
Hmm.
meditation, but they sounded like actors doing
oh
meditation
yeah.
Yeah.
voice and relax, right? And I
Oh
just went,
yeah.
that just doesn't sound like
It doesn't feel like
it
it's
doesn't
You bring a
feel,
belief.
yeah,
yeah.
real or
Yeah.
authentic.
Yeah.
And, but, for the past year, all the new meditations we have released have been made with my voice avatar, and I haven't recorded that. So
Yeah.
it was a very weird experience to create that avatar and have it be, because it sounded just like me, but I had no agency over what it was going to say. Someone else could make it
That's gonna
say,
be weird.
yeah, it was very strange. And I think like we're on the verge of a lot of weirdness. And obviously there's a lot to be concerned about in, just as a society on what can go wrong with these AI interfaces, et cetera. This is why we launched Kokua in a very specific way on our mobile app and not making it a back and forth conversation just yet, even though we
Yeah.
Yeah.
can, because we want to, people are coming to us for support. We want to make sure that it um, doesn't do anything stupid,
Hmm.
Hmm.
And so we did
Yeah.
implement the ability that if somebody says something that might indicate that they're really in need of real-time professional support, that we can direct them to it. And it's been interesting. We've been monitoring the click-throughs to that support line, and we've only had one person actually go all the way through it in the
Mm.
60 days we've been live. So that's encouraging, that maybe we could be that listening voice to support someone at 2 o'clock in the morning where they're just
Yeah.
having one of those moments. Yeah, but
Oh, I
never
guarantee
to
you,
replace talking to a real person.
I'm
Never.
sure you have no idea how many people that this has influenced
Oh
positively,
yeah.
because the words can't explain how positively it's influenced me and
Mm-hmm.
and helped me. So,
Absolutely.
but
Well, I
Yeah.
really appreciate
I
everything you guys do, and thank you so much for supporting our company and
no
also
Yeah.
problem.
giving me the chance to connect with you and learn more about you. I love knowing who is using our app too. We
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
think about our users all the time. I believe we have one of the best customer support teams ever. They get
yep.
their own reviews, and but yeah, I'm very grateful.
No, we
We're very
appreciate it as
thankful
well.
too. Yeah.
If you don't mind, before I cut, I'll kill the recording. I just want to run something by you real
Yeah,
quick, just
sure.
kind of tell you.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
okay.
All right,
Thank
let me do
you.
that
Thank you
here too,
again.
and I'll send you this other video shortly.